So going into game 3, it looks like since apDrop lost that last game, he has to retire that Warlock deck, and he is bringing out his Druid deck. So let's take a quick look at apDrop's Druid deck before we start the next game. And
this is a really solid deck. This Druid deck is actually still very popular today. There's a couple of changes that have been made, but in the meta of the day of this tournament, this was one of the strongest decks you could find. Basically, it's a control deck. It's got a lot of very powerful cards. It's got a lot of answers to the power of other decks. So it's got things like the Black Knight, so it can deal with the taunts. It's also got Starfalls, Swipes, Wild Pyros to make those super swipes and super Starfalls. Blood Mage Thalnos to also do that, and a lot of tools to clear the board early, allowing you to get to that mid game where the deck really starts to shine, which is around turn 4, 5, and 6 when you start getting Keepers, Druid of the Claws, Sylvanas, Cairn, those kind of cards out. You'll notice he doesn't have Ancient of Wars in this deck, which is actually, at the time, a big shift had happened in the meta, which is that everyone was running Black Knight. So all the Druids stopped running Ancient of Wars, which was the big tree you could either turn into a 10-5 or a 5-10 with Taunt. And those were very popular for a while, and those quickly went out of the meta.
Yeah, as soon as the Black Knight came back into fashion, that was the end of that.
Yes, exactly. So he's still running the Black Knight, but he has chucked those out. Cairn is a card that also became very popular around this time as well, and is still very popular today because it is very powerful. I mean, it's a super Harvest Golem, basically. It's a 4/5 that dies and comes back as a 4/5. So
it just instantly replaces itself.
Exactly. I mean, that is value right there. When you think about for 6 mana, you're getting 8-10 in stats. Quite a bit. So
spread over 2 minions that need to be dealt with individually.
Yeah, and this is the first time we're going to see this Druid in this tournament. So we should also bring up the fact that the other thing that Druids kind of excel at is the ability to ramp out cards with the innervates. So they can effectively dominate the board with, say, a turn 3 Druid of the Claw, or say a turn 5 Ancient of Lore, turn 7 Cenarius. I mean, they can pull these massive cards out earlier in the game than the opponent should be able to deal with them. And that's why Innervate is such a strong card.
Right, exactly. Now, the mana acceleration doesn't exist in Warlock, but it's similar with those Mountain Giant plays.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the fact that the Giants will come out for cheaper than you would expect an 8/8 to be is a similar effect to what the Druid does with Innervate. Absolutely. However, the Druid spends 2 cards on these, if you think about it in that way. So he innervates and then he pulls this card out. If you can deal with it in 1 card, you've effectively 2 for 1 to your opponent.
Right. Absolutely. So let's get into our first game with the Druid. Again, the score is 1-1 apDrop versus Kisstafer. Let's get into game 3 of the Angry Chicken Invitational.
All right, this is exciting. Game 3 in the Tide.
Indeed. All right, so it looks like apDrop is up top of his Druid deck.
Probably going to mulligan the entire thing. Yep.
Yep.
Wow, so Kisstafer is going to keep both Blood Imps. That is very interesting. I would probably keep only one of them, but he's going to go ahead and start with both of them. Let's see if he starts with the Knife Juggler or just a single Blood Imp.
I would
maybe both Blood Imps. Wow.
See, I would have gotten greedy there and coined out the Knife Juggler, so the next turn I had 2 knives out with my Blood Imps.
Yeah, the problem is if the Knife Juggler gets dealt with, which it often does, Wrath, Claw, there's a lot of ways to deal with it early.
Yeah, and it would have been a bad play because apDrop has a Wrath in his hand.
He does. So here comes the Knife Juggler, which is now a 3/4 Knife Juggler and a force to be reckoned with. I believe we're going to see apDrop take care of this right away with the Wrath. You cannot let this get out of hand.
This cannot stand.
No. Wow, he is not going to, really. He's thinking about the Novice Engineer.
Don't do it, sir. What are you thinking, apDrop? Clearly, apDrop's a way better player than I am.
Well, okay, so the reason why he might be doing this is because if he Wraths, he also has to run the Loot Hoarder into it, and he's left with an empty board and not enough mana to put anything else out. So it's not really a great place to be. So I think what he's thinking is, I might be able to Okay, so he's going to go ahead and go for it.
Going to
take the safe play.
At the very least. That's what I like about Loot Hoarder. You at least get the consolation prize of drawing a card when it dies.
Yeah.
So,
well, his whole job is to die. I mean, let's be honest.
Because for putting out the Blood Imp that he just drew.
The Flame Imp, yeah. Which is now a 3/4 yes. Flame Imp.
That is, yeah, the double Blood Imp in its old existence was just a force to be reckoned with. I can see why he kept it.
Yeah. Okay, so double Blood Imp is actually still pretty good. I don't know if you've run into that situation, but so you notice he hits the Flame Imp for 1, which is setting up his Starfall next turn.
Right.
My seal for Argus.
However, screw your Starfall next turn plan because here comes Defender of Argus. And this is not looking very good for apDrop right now.
Right, that means that the Flame Imp and the Defender are going to live through that Starfall.
And he's going to go ahead and attack straight through with... he might use actually both Blood Imps, and the reason being is he may suspect that Starfall is coming. So he might want to just go ahead and take this 1 damage now before it dies.
Yeah, doing the 1 damage to the Flame Imp there was kind of a tell that that he was trying to set it up for a board clear.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really, I think Kisstafer pretty much knows that there is either a swipe or a Starfall coming on this turn.
Absolutely. So no point in keeping those stealth minions stealth. Might as well utilize them. Now the new Blood Imps don't have an attack on them, so you're not going to see that as often unless you buff them somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually almost no reason with the new Blood Imps to take them out of stealth now, so I think we still might see the Starfall. The other option here for apDrop is Druid of the Claw. Starfall will still effectively kill both of the Blood Imps because he can attack one of them with the Novice Engineer, which will leave still a Defender of Argus and a Flame Imp on board, but at least both Blood Imps will have been cleared out. I think he's just considering whether that's the correct play here or whether he should just play Druid of the Claw. It's a tough call. Druid of the Claw, it can soak up some damage, but I have a feeling that Kisstafer will be able to deal with that with no problem.
Yeah, I'm looking at Kisstafer's hand. Yeah, he'll be able to get back in there. He's got another Defender in there. He's still going to have minions left over if Druid of the Claw is played.
He's also got a Black Knight in his hand, which you won't be able to use next turn, but you know, he's ready for what apDrop may have here. Although the Black Knight, once this Druid of the Claw is played, will not get another chance to be used for quite a while, I don't think. I don't know, I think it's still Starfall here. What about you?
I probably would as well, but that's just because of my personal seething hatred for the original Blood Imps. Especially when they must die. Them out. Yeah. They just made me. We talk about Garrett Rage on the podcast. We're going to talk about Garrett Rage. Double Blood Imps incurred my wrath.
Now the other option here is to heal himself with a Earthering Farseer and just go ahead and drop Thalnos. It might soak up 1 damage on something, or Kisstafer may just ignore it altogether, which will then give him on the next turn a massive Starfall. But I don't think we're going to see that. I think, okay, so he's actually going to go ahead and go in for the charge, and he's going to start trying to, again, knock stuff down and be ready for the big Starfall, I guess.
More value out of that Starfall, but with... Okay, so he has 2 buff cards he could do here. He could do the Defender, which would buff 2 of his cards, or he could do the Shed Sinclair, which would buff 1. He goes for the Defender, and he's just continually moving his minions out of the range of a Starfall kill.
Yeah, this is a really tough spot now. Oh, there you go. Keeper of the Grove is actually a good draw here because he can actually silence one of these guys, or he could kill off that second Blood Imp over there that's not buffed. But it looks like he's just going to go ahead and heal himself. He might just heal himself with both of these guys. There you go. So making sure that he lives another turn because he was getting dangerously low. So if he lives another turn, he does have the turn 7 Blood Mage and Starfall combo, which means he'll get a 3 damage Starfall, which is pretty good.
Yeah, Blood Mage Thalnos is an underrated legendary. Having a +1 spell damage for just 2 mana on the fly, it's such a nice utility to have.
And it also cycles itself out, because when it dies, it replaces itself with another card.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's the Soulfire. So let's see. He's got 6, 10, 11. Not quite lethal yet, so he'll probably go ahead and clear the board a little bit. Or he might just run straight through to the face, because if he goes straight through to the face here, he gives himself a chance to have lethal next turn with either another Soulfire or a couple of... Okay, so he is going to clear off a couple things.
Yeah, double Soulfire is always a fear when playing a Warlock. I'm sure apDrop isn't feeling super secure at the moment.
This is actually kind of a sketchy Soulfire. I don't know if I agree. Okay, he's going to play the Flame Imp and then Soulfire. I think what he's hoping here is he's hoping to get rid of the... Okay, no, he's going to hold on to it. And I agree with that, because I think what you want here is you want the Soulfire as your finisher.
I mean, look at his board. It's just, at the moment, it's gorgeous. It's about to not be as pretty.
So it's going to be 2 cards after this, which still pretty good, though. So it's going to kill everything but the Flame Imp and the Azure Drake. But as you notice, the health that they go down to, this is one of the things that people are sometimes confused about with the Blood Imp, is the health they went down to does not then drop 1 more when the Blood Imp dies. It remains.
Yeah, it takes damage as if it takes damage before the Blood Imp dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it basically acts as if the Blood Imp... Okay, so he may... So let's see, he can get 2 more damage, so that's 10. He's 1 off of lethal right now.
Oh, that's so infuriating.
I think he's just going to go ahead and get him down to 5.
Oh, no,
I don't know if I would use...
He had spell damage out.
Oh, spell damage, that's right.
Completely forgot about the +1 spell damage of the Azure Drake. That was a great finisher there. So that was a nice end that, again, we didn't even see coming because we completely forgot about the +1 spell damage that the Azure Drake gives. Azure Drake's such a good card. 5 mana, 4/4 body, +1 spell damage, and draws a card when it hits the board.
Yes. And you can see here the power of the aggro Warlock is that he just continues to throw minions on the board and just says, here, deal with this. And apDrop continued to kind of bide his time waiting for that big Starfall. And by the time that big Starfall came, all of Kisstafer's cards were just buffed too much. And he couldn't actually deal with them all. So it's very scary to play that aggro Warlock, especially when they get the draws that they do. And oftentimes they do because of the fact they have so many 1 and 2 drops. It's hard to get a bad starting hand as an aggro lock. So it's just a scary deck to play against. And, you know, the Druid deck that apDrop ran is one of the better decks to deal with it. However, he just never quite got traction in that game and wasn't able to deal with the situation he was put in. The double Blood Imp start is kind of brutal too. So
yeah, it is tough.